That sounds really inspiring. Like I never would have thought to like think of it like that. Um, Knowing that your book goes into like heavy topics, were they seen as controversial when introduced to your young audience? Like knowing that, they're talked about heavy topics, and even though they're really for like young audiences, how do you think like do you think young audiences will understand it? Did you like have like a moment like, well, do I really want to talk about these heavy topics for like young kids? Like what was your goal? What were you trying to do?
I mean, I think with all my books and with all good children's literature that we don't want to underestimate what kids are capable of thinking about or understanding or questioning. And really, I just try to I like to raise, I hope that this book raises questions more than it kind of answers anything, like opens discussions, gets people thinking. I like a good book that makes you laugh and makes you think is kind of what I'm maybe striving for, what I like to read too. And so presenting it also in a way that makes sense to that age group, which I hope I've managed to succeed here. And I've done this in other books too. I have a book about a 12-year-old who becomes an online day trader, a stock trader. And a lot of like friends of mine, adults will read it and be like, thank you for teaching me everything I know about the stock market. And like, I didn't know anything about the stock market before I wrote that book. And I told myself, I just need to understand it to the degree to which my 12-year-old character would understand it. And so that's sort of what I was thinking about here too. Like I kind of want to understand this digital privacy stuff to the degree that, an 11-year-old is going to understand digital privacy. And it's something that's affecting them, it's affecting all of us. And so I think it's important to kind of not shy away from that sort of thing and give kids the information so they can kind of make some decisions. Because just like the girls in this book, I mean, maybe it's not completely realistic that 11-year-olds can go around breaking huge stories and changing things, but it's not completely unrealistic either. And they can use, you guys using your voice and your words and your power. And I think that all kids can do that and kind of get them thinking about what do they care about that's worth learning more about and telling people about, and that they can do that. So yeah, I mean, I think that it's something that I wasn't concerned with this topic at all, really, that they wouldn't understand or care about. In fact, a lot of times with kids, things are so much more cut and dry to them. Like things that seem really complicated to adults, kids are just like, well, this is right or this is wrong, and just they see things in very clear terms like that. And then on the flip side of that, raising the complications, right? So like I mentioned, that idea of what are the trade-offs. I didn't want to be really preachy here. So I tried to have Maya as like completely freaked out by all of this stuff. Whereas Brielle is like, what's the big deal? Who cares about ads? This is, has products that I like to use. And so presenting both sides so that readers can kind of think about it for themselves and decide where they land on those issues.
I completely agree. I think that is really true because I think a lot of people underestimate young people, even like when we're young, like my sister, I still see it every day, like new things to her, like we'll explain and she'll be like, well, isn't that wrong? And I'll be like, yeah, but that's the way it is. And she's like, but that's still wrong. And then I'll have to sit and think about it like, oh wait, that is still wrong. Like it just it's mind boggling to me how young people, even like 6, 8, 9, 10, like their minds are still, growing and developing, but they make you sit and think about certain things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. They have a different perspective that makes you think about things in a new way. That whereas you've been getting, as you get older and a little more jaded, perhaps, and they see things in a much more clear way. Yeah.